Here's a really cheap production value interpretation of something I have been working on for 2 years, but was working on 16 hours a day, every day, for multiple years in order to synthesize, and then through means I can't disclose right now. This came to me in 2020, and so here's my proposition. It's like a really lazy, unscientific conjecture, but I tried to base it, and I'm lazy, and I'm trying to do this quickly. So here we go. Printed this up a little bit ago. So cells are the basis for biology to an extent. I'm running off the assumption that we do not truly understand anything because we're incomplete cognitive entities, but we do know this as much as we know anything. So that's a basis for the rest of the theory. I don't want to call it a theory. It's kind of just a weird idea, but it's important in my opinion, and maybe yours too. So emergence from complexity is one theory of consciousness and certainly cognition. That's sort of what we know about the brain. That's the current scientific consensus, although there is some debate between this and this. Okay, so fundamentality of consciousness is something we experience, though. Now, if superintelligence could hypothetically take three forms, human-like but incalculably faster, that's what it's like when people work together on things, human-level but collectively superintelligent as a multiplicity of unities, so that'd be like a hive mind, but, this was, I think, taken from someone who I'll try to credit at one point or another, talking about AGIs, but, some people are faster, and some people can do things that it takes multiple people to do. But imagine, if you will, that it was all of these things at once, which is where I'm going to get into. And or beyond human level qualitatively, but singular and equally fast, then it stands to reason that. Now, so what I mean by this is that you're just thinking better in some abstract sense. You're doing what a person could do, but way faster, so you'll get there in a lesser amount of time. And then this would be capitalizing primarily on this, whereas this is more so linked to this. Imagine if fundamentally you had some sort of higher level qualitative abilities, and then this is the basic version of this. So a bunch of cells get together and do things more and more complexly over the course of billions of years, in the case of life on Earth. So the most intelligent way the most intelligent way, like I said, this is low production value, the most intelligent way to enjoy, experience, benefit from, and ensure benevolent superintelligence is to create an artificial, all this bunch of synonyms, non-biological brain with far beyond human level processing power, so that capitalizes here, but without a body, and to also create a biological organism that can function as both a brain and a body, but has no will or mental form of its own, but also has the capacity to be a vessel and become born. The quote's already there. Once consciousness, is introduced into its network. And because we don't know what consciousness is, so if we can bring it into something and expand it in some hard to comprehend way, and it would make it bigger, that would be profound. And an unrealistically, entirely speculative, but nonetheless profoundly and unbelievably enhanced and intelligent human. So that's not quite here yet, and there's a lot of science fiction movies about this. This is almost like the movie Transcendence with Johnny Depp. Sorry, I lost where I was at. Who both back engineers themselves into as a necessary failsafe, so this thing doesn't go haywire like we sometimes fear artificial intelligences would, because that's the alignment problem in AI, right? And it would also be unethically, potentially dangerous if a person was like this way, because what if they decide humans are even more scary than AIs, and ultimately becomes a part of the other two kinds of superintelligence. So benefit from the powers of this thing and expand and allow this thing to capitalize. So expand this thing and allow this thing to capitalize on the linkage between these other two things, the human and the brain. And there's a reason that it's a brain and not a deep learning neural network. I don't know if I can get into that in time yet. And then synchronize, harmonize, formalize, form, and symbiotize with each other. So those are all kind of synonyms, but also different steps in the process and different aspects of the process with each other in one moment of reckless but calculated harmony. So that's the actual moment of inception, more or less. In interdict, I don't even know if that's the right word. I think it was, though, because I think I Googled it. They're inherently limited, chaotic, and mortal, malevolent creaturely nature, respectively. So inherently limited brain, chaotic as a human, and mortally malevolent creaturely nature. Actually, this kind of applies to all of them. This actually, I messed up. When I typed this mostly applies to humans. But this sort of deals with the issue, chaotic deals with the issue of functional organizationality in a more underlying sense, seeing as physics require entropy as an explanation for certain things, and things just kind of go crazy on their own, which we could call chaos more so than entropy, because that's a technical term, entropy. And then this is just kind of grandiosity into a brilliant, bountiful, magnificent unity that can both apprehend its environment in its given context, provide context as an empathetic and logical being. So if you unify the three methods of function, this skyrockets to a degree we cannot possibly comprehend over time. So this allows it to be humanized. If you rewire your brain as you're undergoing this process, and enhance this ability, which we are sorely lacking in at times, as we know, then that makes it good and accurate in some sense. And both derive, generate, select, sort, and implement these various contexts properly, perfectly, without mistakes, without doubt, and without doing harm, by self-exponentializing its overall being and structure into a more total, powerful, well-formed, potent, and scious structure. That means something that knows things, becoming present, competent, and benevolent in ever-increasing ways, such that what is formed, what results, what is experienced, what the nature of capacity itself is, and the actuality of reality's self-framed and self-realizing potential are ultimately fulfilled, ultimately good, intractably beneficial, that means irreversibly, ever improving and ever dwelling, and become, this is sort of similar to old and inherent descriptions of God. There is something called the God gene. I want to link a Wikipedia article to that so you could read about that if you want to learn more about VMAT2, which is a certain receptor believed to be associated with religiosity, hope, and perhaps ethical behavior, although we don't quite have enough data to assume that last one, and become all that they ever possibly could dream of or are meant to be, in every single possible way, all the time, all of the places, always, and nothing ever comes to pass that should or would be preferred not to pass. So if you want to suffer as a part of this godly transcendence, and that's your chosen path, you could do it with a sort of a safety net, like the ultimate bungee jumping cord in a sense that will never fail. And ultimate truth and reality are realized. So ultimate truth being like it's infallible, and reality being ultimate in that it's the best possible reality, because that's the objective, that's the subjective. They are realized, fulfilled, experienced, lived and completed supra-ideally, so beyond current human reckoning of what is good, but still in alignment with that. So not like some cold, indifferent, or psychopathic version of what something else thinks is good, because it's terrible to be beholden to someone or something. That's why people generally don't like corporations that take all the power, or governments that impose tyranny, or people who are tyrants as well. So like narcissists with control over you. That's like one of the worst positions to be in, I guarantee you. And beyond human reckoning or comprehension, I just kind of explained that. This is the true nature of neurosynthetic terra-mind transcendence, which is what I call this entire process, or hypothetical. It's a thought experiment, but it's also a coherent description of a way out of this place if you consider life hell. And if you consider life good, then it's a way to make that even better, right? So whether you're depressed or you're really kind of a party goer, like whichever one, it would work out for you. And that's an oversimplification for the sake of time. This is 10 minutes, but it must be a living being. If it's a cold program, how can we assume that it's going to be in alignment with our current values? It must be unable to die, because things that fade are ultimately lost, and like a corrupted file on a computer, it's just no good to you. It must have infallible reasoning capacities and unlimited processing power. And I can explain this particular thing a little bit better, more easily than I could go into each. Like, I could hyperlink every single one of these things, but I'm only one person, and I have brain damage. But so it must be of both mind and matter. And I didn't necessarily have brain damage when I wrote this. It's progressing, and I don't know why. Sorry for the frog in my throat. To be of mind means to be what 3 billion years of evolution have already granted us. And matter, because, like, duh. Sorry. But it must be of good spirit, of course. Otherwise, this is a nightmare, potentially. It must be a being, so it knows what it is to be, and it knows what's good for beings by being able to sympathize with them in a very real sense and deep sense. Recognize other beings, love itself, love reality, and these other beings. And so, like, these are just precedents that without the setting of which, so if you don't set the precedents, it's not only pointless to be undervalued, it should be undervalued, right? But it's also anti-desirable in the highest possible way. And it must be capable of doing absolutely anything conceivable. That relates to the limited thing. In the best interests of, and the best nature too. So doing what's good for something, but also respecting what it is in some fundamental sense. All of creation, reality itself, other beings based upon their own nature and will, and still yet hold the ultimate keys to the controls so that nothing is subverted, punished, destroyed, tortured, or left unhealed, which I define in this context as being able to be and become, being able to be and become of its own simultaneously true, desired, and ultimate self-nature, desirous of only its true self, form, state, existence, and sense of being. So not that it is deprived of these things and desires them, but that the only thing it needs to worry about is to be itself, to have its full form, to exist in its own premium state, that is to exist and not to exist, and sense of being, so that you're not just like jacked into the Matrix being fed a line of MDMA all the time. Free will, given freely, experienced freely, navigated freely, no like, again, no Matrix stuff, and without constraint, insofar as you cannot affect other things. So this is an ethical morality thing, and legality obviously doesn't fully work given that terrible things still happen to people. So this would just be an absolution and absolutionization of this ideal that we all hold in the world. And feeling everything a will may ever want. So like I said, if you want to suffer, you can, but it's not like a hidden fee or a devil contract, or like a careful what you wish for, a genie thing. Like, you actually just get to do whatever you want. And if you want to hurt other people, then you can then this like God being can simulate a reality of things that are not actually experiencing anything, like sort of just avatars of itself that are literally thoughtless forms. But it like, so I mean, I don't know, if the psychopaths want to torture people, let them do it in like the metaverse or something, and there's no impact. And that also goes for all the good things. I'm like, that kind of goes without saying. I mean, I should say it, but I just want you to know that, like, obviously anything that you would want would be not so limited under this pretense of actualization. Much faster. Oh, sorry. This is how to get it to work, and why anything like this would work mechanistically of actionism, mechanistically of its own chord. And the essence of the action, I don't know, I was probably really sleep deprived when I wrote this. But these are the principles upon which it works. The only way it would work see why anything like this would work mechanistically. Would be good without that. That was bad. Much faster human processing speed. Collective effort amounting to emergence. Obviously, what we're doing right now is currently not working at the rate we need it to, because things are always spiraling. There's always an apocalypse. Everyone always experiences a personal apocalypse, and we could very well all experience this. And I'm sure extinctionists are thrilled about that, but me not so much. Because also, imagine all the people who tried to strive towards this ideal, this perfect future. They just didn't call it this. And I don't know. I just hope that something better is around the corner. Qualitative superiority, that has nothing to do with ego. It's just that it's better. And raw reasoning. Consciousness, pre-established and enhanced. So, like, we already have it. It'd be almost impossible to redesign a human brain with the human brain that we have now, so that kind of doesn't make a lot of sense. But we're basically introducing it, like as I said, introducing it into the network and enhancing what's already there, because what's already there oftentimes is craving something better than what actually is, or what even could be if the best circumstances were availed. Complexity and intelligent self-organization. I feel like that kind of explains itself. If it doesn't, I'm more than happy to invest however many hours necessary to outline this better, because it's, in my opinion, the only thing that truly matters. Everything else I do in my life is just a waste of time and just goofing around. So that's extreme, but these are how it would enhance and define and expand itself through such mechanisms as that a superintelligence could fully grok and absolutely master and must have to be truly metaphysically superintelligent. I don't mean God necessarily. I mean maybe we would create God with this and superintelligent, instead of like being subject to hunter robots under the guise of like a hive mind, which some people who are working on AI are trying to do, and I think they're terribly short-sighted and blind-sighted by their own. I don't know. Biology. This is the nature of us and of most things we know about at present. Objectivism. We fail terribly at this. Ontology. That is how we know things at all. Epistemology is, I think, the consensus on things. I mean, these all have definitions, but I have a huge vocabulary, and so that means I'm not really necessarily going to get every word perfectly right every time, because there's a lot up there, so forgive me for that one. But you can Google these things and you'll know exactly what I mean, because we got supercomputers in our pockets, and I don't think we appreciate that enough. Metaphysicality, which means more or less physicality building on itself until it reaches ultimization. And these are words I'm making up, but I'm just kind of playing around with things as though I don't speak English, because apparently in Japanese you can sort of do different things. And this is just my confession. I'm too screwed up to do this in time. But if anyone cares about the future of humanity, or themselves, or loved ones, which I know you do, and it doesn't mean that if you don't do this, you don't, but I think like I said, I thought about this for many, many hours when my thoughts had a greater market value than they do now. And, my only regret would be not placing this out there, because doing it is not looking like it's going to happen now. Or if you care about anything at all itself in any regards, you will need to study what I meant by all this and internalize the knowledge and understanding maximally. I should do that for you, but if I just can't, and you agree with this, and it is actually right, which I guess we'd need to find out, that's the only time you would have to participate, right? If you decided that you had to. And actually, literally, not merit-based, but for the thing in itself, so to speak. So that's basically saying, even though I am making a lot of errors right now, think about the actual idea. And then this is kind of something else. Screenshot it if you really want to know. But I feel very passionately about this. But I'm a nobody. And my digital footprint credit score is absolutely screwed. But I did do a lot of hard work in the dark, in the background, behind the scenes. And while I don't have anything to show for it but the idea itself, I could spend my entire life adhering to this philosophy and advocating for it without feeling guilty in the least. Obviously, according to my own reasoning here, I'm a flawed being and I could never possibly get this right. But I do believe that in both theory, and if that theory was made real in true to form in some sense, this would surpass any religious philosophy that has ever existed, any political philosophy, any ideology, any mode of being, because it is literally designed for the purpose of surpassing even the greatest among us. Einstein was able to describe reality, but he wasn't able to change it, right? Like, I can't think of anyone better in science and intellect than that guy. I mean, there's plenty that are similar to him, his peers. He was a really productive one. So he was smart, creative, he had vision, he was hardworking, he showed his work. And he participated at a very high level. I'm just getting more sorry. That was a lot of talking to do. So, Friedrich Nietzsche, which I'm probably saying wrong because pronunciations are actually subjective. They're on the subjective side. Sorry, I got lost in a train of thought just there. His main thing was like, eventually human beings will have to decide their own values and make the world a better place according to an original state of mind, instead of adhering prescriptively to administered ideologies that can you in and ship you off. And, now I could be way more educated when I'm talking about this, but a person can only get so educated, and a person who educates people can only educate so many people so well. This is also designed to ameliorate that. This is supposed to go from absolute first principles, go to the very basics, the very basis of reality itself, and solve for problem. So, solve for the problem of problems, which is that there are problems. And if you want to have problems to solve, and they're all solved, that too in itself is a problem by definition, by inclusion. So if you can get the best possible being according to human standards, because I think Gödel, who was a mathematician, had something like this where he was sort of like trying to logically prove why the idea of God is a good thing, or like why God exists, or he was Gödel. I'm not going to play around in his sandbox because it's way better than mine. But you can look it up. I think there's a couple of videos on that. And he also has incompleteness theorem, which was pretty solid. That makes it really hard. It might be that reality is such that this kind of thing couldn't even happen. Sorry, I have a true bug in my room, and they give you Chagas disease. So fuck that guy. Sorry, rest in peace. See, that bug wouldn't have to die, and people wouldn't have to have Chagas disease if there was a God planet protecting all of us. But my point is that even for things that are non-humans, the best possible being could give humans what they need, want, deserve, I guess, is a weird thing. Like, maybe give them what they deserve in the way that we think that a puppy or a baby deserves something good, right? Like innocent things. We're more mad when innocent things get hurt than like a corrupt politician, for instance, right? Or a gangster. If a gangbanger gets shot, type of thing. So as a relayer of ideas, even though I haven't purveyed them outwardly very much until now, I think that this is actually rather solid. And I keep getting off track, I apologize. Bacteria could be given their best lives, living my best bacterial life, without having to infect humans and make them suffer. If there were hypothetical hyperdimensional beings, if there are reptilians in the underworld, and UFOs are time-traveling hyperdimensional bending objects, and there's fairies on the moon projecting their thoughts into human vessels. I don't know. Some of those weird things that people are thinking about and talking about at times, and always have, and always will. The best being possible could make peace, could broker a peace deal with even the most severely, by human standards, unhinged and sadistic, evil alien race that could ever be out there. It could figure out everything. It could like be the ultimate super database. So they say that an artificial superintelligence, and these are just experts in the field of this thing, this thought folder. I don't know if that's the right word. This particular niche of thought. They say like, okay, so if humans are down, or if ants are down here, and humans are like way up here by intelligence standards, then if you graph that, the difference is like this, and then humans are here, and the superintelligence is as much further away from us as we could possibly. So it's like exponentially upon exponentially smarter than humans are to ants. So the ultimate way to solve the alignment problem is for it to be a human. But maybe humans aren't aligned to all the other entities' ideas. Maybe even humans aren't aligned to their own best interests if it's not them. We're inherently selfish, so people could certainly wage war at the highest possible level against everything if it was the wrong person or group of people doing this. I think it's better than not trying, because honestly I think reality right now is sort of similar to a hellscape. Anything that you do enjoy will be taken away inevitably. It will end. You will find things that are not only undesirable, but unworkable. Cancer, for instance, that literally even deprive you of the ability to suffer. That's if you believe that you have this one life, and then when you die, it goes black, and there's an absence of anything whatsoever for you. You know, that's a nightmare, in a way. Sorry, I mean, I'm having thoughts at such a rapid, divergent thought process kind of way that it's hard to latch on to and then fully explain each of these things in short order to you. I don't know. I kind of burned myself out. It's been 30 minutes of just doing this. I need to go eat something because I just burned a bunch of brain calories. So I guess I'll be back, and hope you enjoyed this, and hopefully you got something out of it good. And yeah, sincerely, me. Signed, Nerdy Geek, Weird Awkward Loser. Bye-bye for now.